Good morning, good evening, good night, peace, shalom. Whatever greeting you're more familiar with, I bring peace towards you, and I thank you for being here. I thank you for coming over here and clicking on this channel, clicking on this video. I ask that whatever purpose you clicked on this video, it will be answered while listening to this video. I thank you for the energy in which you're dispensing right now at the moment, because without you, brethren, without you, sister, where would I be? So I thank you for coming over here. Always. You know, without the cumulative energy of one another, where would we be? So I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for everything that we see. Now, as you can see from the title of the video, we're dealing with something very serious. Something that is affecting our tribe prevalently. Like, it's very prevalent in our tribe. This ailment, just like many other ailments, seems to have a certain affinity towards our tribe, and especially towards our women in our tribe. And so I felt the need in my heart, to make a certain video about it. Just like a overview about it. And because, a lot of people that I know, have Alzheimer's and also dementia and other, cognitive illnesses. And so I felt the need, just to take a stab at it real quick, share some information. Each one teach one, each one reach one. If I share something, you can share this video, you can share some information that you learned in this video towards someone else, and you can prevent something before it even starts. So that's what we're out here doing right now. So that being said, let's get some information. So some people might be asking, what is Alzheimer's? Let's get that. Alzheimer's, which is a form of dementia, is a progressive disease that destroys memory and other important mental functions. Alzheimer's disease accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia. Brain cells, connections, and the cells themselves degenerate and die because of the symptoms of Alzheimer's, eventually destroying memory and other important mental functions. Dementia causes problems with memory, thinking, and behavior. If not caught and treated at an early stage, symptoms can progress and worsen over time. Alzheimer's interferes with daily tasks. This is extremely important to understand. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Although the majority of people with Alzheimer's are 65 years and older, it is important to understand that Alzheimer's is not just a disease of old age. Alzheimer's is not just a disease of old age. That's very important to understand. Among dementia diseases, Alzheimer's is the most common and worst of them all. Dementia symptoms gradually decline over a number of years. Moreover, the more progressive Alzheimer's is extremely more insidious. In the beginning stages, memory loss is mild, but with late-stage Alzheimer's, individuals lose the ability to carry on a conversation and even respond to their environment. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death, and it's estimated that on average, people with Alzheimer's live only 4 to 8 years after their diagnosis, with some living either shorter or longer depending on certain environmental and risk factors that individual person has. Symptoms of Alzheimer's include, it's a few symptoms that we'll be going over right here, so let's dive into it. There are a few symptoms, but the most common one is difficulty remembering newly learned information. Other symptoms such as confusion and serious memory loss, such as loss of memories that hold poignant emotions, are early signs of onsetting Alzheimer's. as Alzheimer's advances through the brain. Severe symptoms such as disorientation, mood and behavior changes, deepening confusion about events, time and place, extreme suspicions about family, friends, and others, changes which involve difficulty speaking, swallowing, and walking are also more severe symptoms that can afflict someone dealing with Alzheimer's. So, if you know someone who's going through anything like this, or anything even close to this, I'm not saying just hit the panic button or nothing like that, but, have a talk with them. Share this video with them. Share some information with them. Because, the earlier you can get something, the better, you can prevent it onsetting onto your family member or even yourself. Because, you're learning this information to not just help yourself, but to help others as well. So, with that being understood and that being said, let's get into how this information affects our tribe and our people. The misnomered African Americans, the misnomered black people, the misnomered whatever you want to call us, are very hard hit by this disease. Because African Americans are hard hit, as they call us, African Americans are hard hit by Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is more prevalent among African Americans than among whites, with estimates ranging from as low as 14% to even almost 100% higher than other demographics. Genetic and environmental factors may work differently to cause Alzheimer's disease in quote-unquote African Americans or black people. The number of African Americans aged 65 and over will more than double by 2030, from 2.7 million in 1995 to 6.9 million by 2030. The prevalence, incidence, and cumulative risk of Alzheimer's disease appears to be much higher in African Americans than in non-Hispanic whites. Some other risk factors can help lead to Alzheimer's disease in African Americans. Risk factors including vascular disease may be a particularly powerful factor in the prevalence of Alzheimer's among African Americans. To anyone who might want to know, vascular disease is basically dealing with your heart, basically. And it's a heart condition that includes diseased vessels, structural problems, and blood clots. And when we really get to the real crux of what's causing Alzheimer's, we'll understand that high stress is very important. And one of the main causes of vascular disease is stress. And so if vascular disease is a prerequisite of having Alzheimer's, then we'll know the main link between both of these illnesses. So, let's get some more information real quick. As I said, stress, as in many other ailments, plays a huge role in Alzheimer's as well. It is said that Alzheimer's disease affects more black women than it does black men. Now, as I just stated previously, many of our people, we're living in this society, we're living in this age of environment in which we're living out of whack, we're living out of knowledge of ourselves. And because of that, we're living out of knowledge of our health. Not just black men, but black women as a whole. Because you can't just look at one group of people and say, oh, they're rich, so they must be good. You can't look at just one people and be like, oh, they're poor, so they must be bad. Us as a people, us as a tribe of people, what happens to one part of the body happens to the next. So, us as a people, we're really hard hit by this, cognitive dissonance, otherwise known as Alzheimer's. And because of this cognitive dissonance or this cognitive impairment, us not being able to remember our true selves, we're going to be hit with all types of ailments that's going to be shaking us up, shaking us out of our boots, shaking us out of our whims, and shaking us up into disease, such as Alzheimer's. And it's very apropos that a disease like this would be very effective to our people. Because not only is it caused by heavy metals, not only is it caused by, vascular diseases, not only is it caused by environmental levels, it's caused by high stress. And you only be stressed if you don't know that you need rest. So when we look at these commandments, when we look at everything that we're supposed to be doing from the Almighty, the ever-power presence of Almighty creation wants you to succeed, wants you to grow, wants you to spread your wings and fly. But if you don't know the knowledge of the Most High, eventually, brethren, you might die. So brothers and sisters, this real crux of all of this is the stress that you're putting on yourself by not allowing yourself to be used by the Almighty. See, the yoke of creation is not a heavy one. It's only heavy if you make it heavy. The cross in which you must bear for yourself is only heavy unless you make it heavy. Because the thoughts in which you think is the environment in which you will perceive. So this stress in which you're compounding onto yourself, it's not necessarily necessary for you to succeed. And our women, misnomered black women, the stress of this wicked society is what's causing their illness. That's why they're the leading cause or the leading demographic of Alzheimer's. This cognitive dissonance in which they have of not remembering, we're supposed to be living higher than this. We're supposed to be living to a higher echelon, a standard than this. Is what causes, little heavy metals such as aluminum, mercury, lead to be compounded by stress, and it affects certain parts of their brain, which causes cognitive impairment, otherwise known as Alzheimer's or dementia. So us as men, we're supposed to be able to basically calm the storm, or be a cool wind or a cool breeze unto our partners walking this ether. Because you can't do it alone, you're doing this together.
Oh boy.
75-year-old Alice Bryant has Alzheimer's disease. She was diagnosed 10 years ago. The decline has been slow but steady.
I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1999. I didn't know what it was then, and I don't know what it is now.
What led up to my wife's diagnosis as an Alzheimer's patient was the fact that she was unable to tie knots and rig her fishing poles. After she was diagnosed, my wife went from Newark to Elizabeth, which is approximately 5-6 miles. And she had to ask directions several times in order to get back to the house.
My day-to-day activities, I get up, clean up, wash up, wipe up, all those things. And then my husband gives me breakfast. I sit and I watch the boob tube. That's the day.
85-year-old Julius is the full-time caretaker, from meals to doctor's appointments.
Generally speaking, she stays in the same spot. She sleeps between 9 and 12 hours a night. Okay. This is one of your favorites.
What is it?
Grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese? Oh, yeah.
And I slipped a little bit of bacon in it for you.
Hot dog. I like that.
I think her immediate, a really, really short-term memory is about 15 minutes. It becomes very wearing to answer the same questions 5 or 6 times within 10 minutes. I have to be careful how I do it because each time I answer is the first time that she asked the question.
I was always one, remember so-and-so Alice? Yeah. Remember this, Alice? Remember that? Remember this? And I would remember. But now, as I got older, I got to the place where I said, well, I'm not going to let that bother me. Whatever will be, will be.
So for Alice and Julius, living with Alzheimer's means taking life one day at a time.
We're not sitting here waiting for Alzheimer's to consume Alice or consume me. We just make do with the situation that we have right now.
I got a good husband. I have a heavenly home. It may not be the palace, but it's my palace. I'm content. I'm happy here. I'm happy with my life.
Why don't I put her in a short-term facility now? I didn't marry her to put her into care, have someone else care for her, as long as I'm able to do it. And I certainly know no one else is going to do it as well as I do. I love my wife. I married her because I loved her. So that's the way it is.
Now, us as a people, we're all sick. We're all going through it. We're all going through growing pains. Now, you can either give up or you can dig in. I choose the latter because I choose to win. You know, without the understanding that you need, you will never succeed. When I look at the Almighty, I know that He dwells within me. And so when I look at my people, I know that although we're going through it, I know that we can succeed. Because the Almighty is what made us. So what is this Alzheimer's? Stress compounded by vascular disease, compounded by heavy metals. You know. It might be that on the physical sense, but what is it on the spiritual sense that you're drawing into your body? What is it on the mental sense that you're drawing into your body? You're drawing stress. You're drawing heaviness by your thoughts. And your spiritual body is what, you know, permeates into your physical and your mental. So spiritual first, mental second, physical third. So in this physical body, you're feeling the heaviness of your thoughts and your spirit. Because your spirit isn't fully open to receiving the wellness in which you are asking for, and because of that, your thoughts are not going to be open to thinking thoughts in which will lead to your health and wellness. And because of those two, the cognitive dissonance or the cognitive impairment known as Alzheimer's is going to take prevalence into your physical body. And to prevent these things, what must we do? Brethren, sisters, you must dig in and find out what's inside of you. Because what's inside of you wants you to win. What's inside of you wants you to succeed. What's inside of you wants you to rest. So all these illnesses and diseases won't come towards you or to your chest. But, you know, I can keep going on my soapbox. But, you know, you might not want to listen to me. Because, you know, I don't got no PhD. I don't got no big letters behind my name. Although I do have love for my family. So I'm gonna get, you know, an article that, you know, I was researching and that I liked the information that it was, you know, spitting. And so I wanted to read this article from medicalnewstoday.com. And so let's dive into it. Stress puts African Americans at risk. A team of researchers led by Megan Zulderoff, PhD of the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health in Madison, decided to investigate the influences of lifetime stressors on the risk of cognitive impairment. Dr. Zulderoff and team analyzed 1,320 patients from the Wisconsin Registry of Alzheimer's Prevention Study. The cohort consisted of 1,232 non-Hispanic whites and 82 African Americans. The researchers examined the impact of stressful situations on the cognition of these two racial groups. Dr. Zulderoff and colleagues considered stressful experiences including losing one's job and facing financial insecurity, being raised by a parent with substance abuse issues, surviving the death of a child, or engaging in military combat. Living in the society in which we live in, not many black people live in the hood, but a lot of us live in the hood, quote unquote, what we call hood or low income environments. And, living in those types of environments, it's kind of like a concentration camp. And in a concentration camp, it's always military combat. They might call it black on black crime. They might call it, oppressive crime. They might call it white on black crime. But wherever the source of it is, it's still the same thing. We're going through combat with one another on a daily. And if this military combat in which our people are engaging in, not just on foreign soil, but on our own soil, is leading to abuse of our own minds, in which, in its sense, is taken away from our time. But I'm done rhyming. Let's get some more information. The participants were asked to complete a questionnaire that probed their experience in any potential psychosocial trauma that they might have faced. The participants were also asked to undertake a series of tests that measured their cognitive abilities, namely their memory and problem-solving skills. Overall, the study found that the more stressful events a person was subjected to in early life, the more impaired their cognitive became in later life. Specifically in the case of African Americans. Hear me out. Specifically in the case of African Americans, the study revealed that each stressful experience amounted to the equivalent of 4 years of cognitive decline. I'm gonna get that all the way back. Specifically in the case of African Americans, the study revealed that each stressful experience amounted to the equivalent of 4 years of cognitive decline. Additionally, the study found that in small population sample of highly educated individuals, African Americans were exposed to 60% more stressful situations over the course of their lifetime compared to their non-Hispanic white counterparts. The author note that according to their research, life adversity is a stronger predictor of cognitive performance than established risk factors such as age, education, and even APOE4 gene, which is known to scientifically raise a person's risk of Alzheimer's disease. So do you just understand what I just said? The authors note that according to their research, the adversity of life is a stronger predictor of cognitive performance than what is thought to be a risk factor of Alzheimer's, such as age. So because we're living in this world as a people in which tells us, oh, do that to win, oh, do this to win, oh, do this, and you can see what you need to see. Oh, you gotta get that, or you gotta get that piece of paper, or you gotta get that to succeed. But by you living in this world and doing what they want you to do, you're going to be getting illnesses and diseases in which the Most High never intended for you. Because this world is full of stress, but the Most High, He's full of rest. Other risk factors for African Americans. Further findings presented at the conference included the link between a high infant mortality rate and the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Infant mortality rate is generally considered to be an indicator of the health and well-being of a population. Infant mortality rate is generally considered to be an indicator of the health and well-being of a population. And a high rate is seen as a marker for social adversity. So when the first commandments given to Adam and Eve was to multiply and subdue the earth. And so we understand that because, our people have such a high rate of infant mortality, we're not even following one of the first commandments that we were given. And because of that, we're showing that we have social adversity in which is causing us as a nation of people to not succeed. And as I said, we're living in a society that doesn't want us to be who we were meant to be. One of the new studies determined that African Americans who were born in the United States with a high infant mortality rate were almost 80% more likely to develop dementia than white Americans living in areas with low infant mortality rates. In the case of white Americans, the infant mortality rate seemed to have no impact of their chances of developing Alzheimer's. Another study showed that living in a disadvantaged neighborhood significantly increased the odds of having Alzheimer's related biomarkers and impaired cognition. Neighborhoods were considered to be disadvantaged if they were challenged by poverty, low education, unemployment, or substandard housing. For a racially diverse nation like the United States, and to address Alzheimer's and dementia on a global scale, these findings support the need for targeted interventions, whether preventive or service-driven, to help address the gaps we know exist, and for more research. In addition to research on Alzheimer's risk factors and biology, the Alzheimer's Association is particularly interested in increasing the understanding of stigma concern related to Alzheimer's and other dementias in diverse communities. Man, oh man, man, oh man. When you don't understand a plan, you won't know how to use your hands. You see, we weren't created to be having Alzheimer's. We weren't created to be having dementia. Most of the information I went over today shows that, although Alzheimer's is an old-timer's disease, it's not an old-timer's illness that they should be having. Because in your old age, you should be living stress-free. But instead, you're just giving more stress to thee. You see? There's nothing under the sun that is new. So the same way our people were killed in the past is the same way our people are being killed now. By not realizing that we're supposed to be living in an environment in which gives praise to not only ourselves, but most importantly, the energy that formed us and made us. And because of that cognitive dissonance, we have cognitive impairment. Because, some of the things I went over is because, we're pursuing this type of education, we're pursuing this type of job, we're pursuing this type of, lifestyle in which causes and implodes stress upon our bodies. I'm not saying those things aren't nice. Yes, you need to attain a level of education which you can take care of your family. But at what cost? Is getting something like that worth your soul at the end? Is impounding stress upon yourself worth it at the end? Is living in a constant combat with your people worth it at the end? Is having high infant mortality rates worth it at the end? Is not being able to take care of your children worth it at the end? I say no. But that's just me and my humble opinion. You can go in whichever way you want to. Because the Alzheimer's, yes, is a physical thing, as I said, caused by heavy metals, stress, and vascular disease. But it's spiritual and mental connections in which are causing these things. Because we're thinking stress, and our spirit is becoming stress, in which our bodies will then manifest stress. And stress is a toxicity. Well, an over-implode of stress is a toxicity. Because everything in its proper balance can lead to you growing. So I won't say stress is too bad, but when it's over-imploded onto your body, that's when the problem comes. An imbalance Everything in life is supposed to be balanced. And because we're unbalanced, we lead to us dealing with things in which we were never meant to be. So brethren and sisters, I hope not to end this on a melancholy note. I want everything that's supposed to happen to happen to you. I want the power that flows through me to flow through you. I want the understanding that comes and beams itself inside of me to have prevalence inside of you. The information I went over today was not to scare anybody, but to enlighten everybody. And so if you felt something from this video today, like it and share it. Not for me, but for you and for the culmination of the tribe. Because we need one another. As I always say, I need you. I might have all this information, but without you, who would I give it to? So I said, thank you, and thank you. Hope everything that happens is supposed to happen for you and not against you. So that being said, peace and shalom.